Hey, hi friends, very good morning to everyone. So yesterday we were discussing about export options what we have in data pump, and same almost same options are available even in data pump import as well. But apart from that, what we regularly use were listed down over here. So the first one is remap schema. So earlier, if you want to uh, copy the data from one schema to another schema between two databases. We use it to use parameters like from user and to user. But instead of giving that from user and to user, now you have only one parameter which you need to say remap underscore schema equals to you need to give the source schema name colon the destination schema name. And also data pump provides an option that during the import you can able to rename the table. So in the source, let's say there is a table by the name XYZ, but in the destination you want it in a different name. So that is possible with this remap table. And even if you want, you can change the table space name as well. So instead of importing into one table space, if you want to import into a particular table space, you can mention even that as well. But out of all these, the best option that we have is table exist action. So the last one. So if you remember, we discussed this point that if already a table is existing, import is going to throw an error saying that the object is already existing. So we have an option of ignoring it in normal traditional import. But whereas here in data pump, we have several options. So either you can ignore it or you can skip that. Like if you don't want to import that particular table, you can skip that or you can replace that. So this is one of the best options I say. So instead of manually you dropping it, so you can just leave this to Oracle. Oracle is going to replace your existing table with the new table that is coming from the dump file. So these are all, the best options that we have. So let's go and see how we can make use of them. So I'm taking the same two databases. So I'm taking the same two things like we have a database by the name ProdDB here, and I have taken another database by the name DevDB. So here in the production we have a schema by the name TMProd, and in the destination we have a schema by the name TMDev. So let us go and see how we can do that. So I'm taking first export. So I'm taking export of that particular schema with the parallelism of 4. So now we got four dump files over here. So we are going to do SCP of that. Let me go to this location, then do. So I'm just copying to U03 location. Okay, so copy has been done. Now let's move on to the other server. So first I am verifying whether copy has been done properly or not. So now I'm just checking if I have a directory already created. So I don't have any directory. So let's create one. So you can create with any name. And yeah, now we can start the import. Okay, before starting the import, so I just want to import into this particular schema TMDB. So I'm just verifying whether tables are there already or not. Yes, you can see tables are already there here. So now while importing, what we can do is we can make use of that table exist action. So when you are giving that dump file name in import also, even though we have four dump files, it is not necessary to mention four dump file names. Simply if we give %u, automatically one by one the dump files will be picked up by IMPDP. So this is what I said, because we are exporting from tmprod and importing into tmdev. So our from user and to user are different. So as I said, now we don't have two parameters, we have only one parameter, that is remap schema. So this we are going to mention like this. So first the source schema, that is tmprod colon the destination schema, that is tmdev. And let's say when I'm doing the import, I want to change the table name of one particular table. Let's say I have a table by the name T20. I don't want the same name to be there in the destination. I want to rename it with T21. So then I can mention remap underscore table is equals to T20 colon T21. So while importing, Oracle will understand that I need to change the table name. So it will change the table name and it will do the import. So for this parameter we have different options. Like the first option is skip. So which means if uh, the table is already there in the destination, it is going to skip the import or ignore. So which will work in the same way. So the table creation will be skipped, but the data will be appended to the existing table. And the third option we have is truncate. So which means it will truncate the table and it will load only the data. And the very widely used option is a replace. So it will drop the existing table and it will import the new table into that particular schema. So this is very widely used. And if you remember, normally when we do the import for the second time, generally we will drop the tables or we will drop the schema and then we will follow the things. So, but here with this option, table exist action is equals to replace. Really, you don't require to drop the tables. So you can just drop the other objects except tables and you can just go ahead and re-import that. Okay, so here it is saying everything got completed. Okay, so I think I wrongly mentioned this. So here, because the schemas are different, I need to mention the schema name before this table name. So that's why it is saying that the schema is not existing. That's fine. So the import has been completed successfully, and this is how we are going to perform the export import, especially in data pump. And then we have all the commands over here. So anyone having questions before we move on? Okay.
Pawan, which scenarios exactly we use in real scenarios data pumping?
That is what I said, when you want to transfer the data from production to any test environment or development environment. So basically application team will ask you this kind of request that they want to refresh the production data with the test or any other lower environments. So in such cases you will go for this.
Oh, the refresh activities. Oh, okay.
Right. Okay, so one good option that import provides us is you can even go ahead and do the import with the help of a database link. So, and when you are doing this, you don't really require to take the export. So what we do is we will create a database link. For example, here I have a TMDEV schema. So here I will create one database link which is pointing to TM prod user on the production database. Then using the DB link, we will be able to do the import directly. DB link, once we created a DB link, we will be able to extract the data from that particular schema, the remote schema. So in such cases, we'll be just mentioning like this. So you don't require to take export. Directly you can connect to your lower environment database, and you can say command like this: imptp directory equals to so and so, dump file, log file, and all. And if you are importing entire schema, then you need to mention the schema name, and then you need to say network link equals to your db link name. Then automatically that data will be imported over here. So this is one good advantage what we have. But because the data will be transferred over the network, so it is it is going to take some time, and also in all the situations that might not be useful. So why, what is the reason that in all the situations it is not useful? As I said, in some situations you will not provide direct access to the main schema of that particular table. So if you recollect, we discussed about restricting the data with the help of a view in another schema while creating the database link. So if that applies, this db-link may not be useful in all the situations. So that is how we are, going to do. But when come to real time, it's very rare situation that you will go for it, because it will create a burden on the network, especially on the production database network. So if network is a burden, then obviously the other users will get impacted. So that's the reason most of the times we will not do this activity. We will just go ahead and take export, and then we will be doing the import. So coming to backup and recoveries, I'm not going to stress much on the things here, initial things, because nowadays we are totally out of this traditional cold backup and hot backup methodology. So every environment nowadays is using Arman backup. So we will be spending more time over there. So I will just give a glance of what is this cold backup and what is this hot backup. So first of all, backup is the copy of the original data, whatever we have in the database, and we are going to take a backup into a particular location. So now the question is, what are all the things that we need to consider in order to take the backup of database? So basically, the thing is, if you want to, if there is some, crash happens with the existing backup, whatever you have, you should be able to recreate the database back. So for that, whatever the files are required, you need to take backup of all those files. So if we take a look here, suppose there is a crash happen, and I need to take a backup, and or I already have a backup, and from that backup I need to restore and recover my database. So the very first thing is, when you do a restore and recover, after that you will start up the database. So to do that, first of all, you require a P file or SP file. You people already know that. So to bring to no bound state, we require SP file or P file. So which means we need to take backup of SP file or P file. And you know that from no mount to go to mount state, you require the backup of, or you require control files. So for that reason, you need to take the backup of control files. And next, to open the database, you require redo log files and data files. So you would be taking backup of both the redo log files as well as the data files. And we require backup of archeolog files as well. So these are the 4 or 5 primary files what we require for the backup. So that even if database is crashed and totally all the files are lost, still you will be able to recover the database. So now backup has been divided into 2 categories. So let me put it in simple diagram so that you will understand that. So backup has been categorized into 2 types. One we call it as cold backup, and the second one we call it as hot backup, or more clear to say, so we can say backup is categorized into 2 levels. One is user managed backup, and the second one is recover managed backup. And shortly this we are going to call it as RMAN. Again, this user managed backup or recovery managed backup is categorized into 2 types. One we call it as cold backup, and the second one we call it as hot backup. So if you are shutting down the database and then you are taking the backup, then we are going to call that as a cold backup. And if we are taking the backup of the database when the database is up and running, then we call that as a hot backup. So that's the very simple difference what we have here. So obviously each one is having its own advantages and disadvantages. Like in cold backup, because you are shutting down the database, there will be no user transactions, and the backup which you have taken will be a consistent backup because there will be no user transactions there. But the problem is the downtime. So because during that time users are not able to access, so let's say your backup is taking 3 hours to complete. So till that 3 hours, if the database is down, you can understand there will be a user impact or the business impact. Similarly, when it comes to hot backup, the advantage is there is no downtime because you are taking the backup of the database when it is up and running. So there is no downtime involved here. But the disadvantage is inconsistency because you are taking you are taking the database backup when the database is up and running. So when you are copying the data, at the same time some user is trying to update the data, so that new updates will not come to the backup. So that is why we call that as a inconsistent backup. So to overcome this inconsistency, we have archives in place. So with the help of archeologs, we will be able to get the new data because we know archeologs will record all the changes to the database. So that is the reason slowly cold backup is totally out of the market, and even user managed hot backup is out. So now what people are really using is recovery managed hot backup. So we'll go to this recovery managed backup at later point of time. So first we will see what we are doing with user managed cold backup and hot backup. So basically in user managed backup, you are going to copy the files from one location to another location. So for example, here first we are creating a directory at the OS level. Then we are taking the data file name and location, then control file name and locations, and the redo log file name and locations. And because this is a cold backup, we are shutting down the database. Then if you see here, we are copying the files from the original location to the backup location. So first we are copying data files, then control files, then redo log files, and finally SP file and P file as well. And if we want to take, we can take archives backup also, but it is not required. Why? Because the backup is a consistent backup. So once we have completed taking the backup, then we are going to start up the database. And last and finally, after starting the database, we are going to take the backup of control file script. So we have something like create control file command will be there. So that script we are going to take backup over here. So what is the reason? When we look at recoveries, you will understand that. But this will be a really helpful step what we have. So here the note is also saying the same. Archive backup is not required because the backup whatever you have taken is the consistent backup. So just anyway we are not using it in real time. So just to save the time, I'm skipping showing these steps. But anyway, a video file is attached here, so you can just have a look over there. So now coming back to the hot backup, as I said, the advantage of hot backup is you don't require any downtime, but the disadvantage is inconsistent backup. And before going further, let us look at the step what we are going to do. So first we are going to identify where my archive logs are being generated. So we are going to take the location of that. So one important thing here is if the database is in no archive log mode, means archive log mode is not enabled, then you cannot take hot backup. So compulsory your database should be in archive log mode. So first you are going to take the location of archive logs, and then you are going to create one directory at OS level. Then you are taking the details of the data files, then control files. And in hot backup, we don't require to take the backup of redo log files because we are taking the backup of archeolog files, and archeolog files are nothing but the copy of redo log files. So that's the reason we'll skip that. And then when we are taking the backup, we need to tell to Oracle that I am taking backup. So for that, we are going to execute this command alter database begin backup. And then you will be copying all the data files here. And once it is done, then you will be saying alter database and backup. And then you will be copying the control files, then SP file. Then, as I said, you will be taking the control file script and then archeolog files. So these are the things that you would be doing. The main important thing what we need to understand is what happens between this begin backup and the end backup. So even though nowadays nobody is asking about this question in interviews, but really if somebody is there and they want to check your knowledge on hot backup, then they might ask you a question. What happens when you place the database in begin backup mode? So let us have a look here. So You people know that every data file will have a header portion, and this header portion will be recorded with several information, and one such information is the latest SCN number. So let's say I have some data files here with the header portion and which are having the latest SCN. So when I say alter database begin backup mode, then immediately Oracle will freeze all the data file headers. So if you have 100 data files, for all the 100 data file headers will be freezed. So only the headers. So because the header is freezed, no writing is allowed into that. So normally what happens, whenever checkpoint event occurs, CKPT process will update the latest SCN to this header portion. But because now this header portion is freezed, so no more writings are allowed. So which means CKPT process will not update the latest SCN. But during this time, the body portion will still be active. Which means, so who will be writing into the body portion, or what body portion contains? Body portion contains blocks. We know that. So who will be writing into these blocks? DB writer. So which means during this time, when you place in begin backup, only the header will be freezed, but the body will be active. So which means DB writer will still continue writing into the blocks. And when you say end backup, so after you say begin backup, when you say end backup, then obviously the headers will be unfreezed, and then CKPT process is allowed to write the latest SCN. So this is what will happen between begin backup mode and end backup mode. So why Oracle is doing this? Why it is freezing and unfreezing? The reason is, as I said, when we are taking the backup of the database, uh, Oracle need to or somewhere the consistency should be maintained at least for the headers. Or otherwise what will happen is in your backup location, each data file will have different SCN, and that is not a right way to what I say. It will create problems tomorrow when you do the recovery. So just to maintain the same SCN number for all the data files, so it is just going to freeze that header portion. So let's say at the time of freezing, the SCN number is 124. So if you take backup of all these data files in your backup location, each and every data file will have the same same SCN number, that is 124. So just for that purpose, Oracle is going to maintain this. And also, generally we say that whenever we are taking hot backup, during that time, redo entries will be generated more. So normally if let's say in 1 hour for a normal database, so let's say you have a redo entry of 200 MB, and if you are taking the hot backup and that hot backup has taken 1 hour, so in that 1 hour the redo entries will be much more than 200 MB. So there is specific reason for that, which we call it as fracture blocks and all. But at this point of time, as I said, nobody is going to ask about that in interviews. So really it is not required to discuss about that. So anyone having questions? Okay, so next we have database recovery. So database recovery is generally of two types. One is complete recovery and the second one is incomplete recovery. So complete recovery in the sense without any single second data loss. If you are going to recover it, then we are going to call it as complete recovery. And if you cannot recover till that point of time and there is some data loss there, then you are going to call that as incomplete recovery. So in what situations we go with complete recovery and in what situations we go with incomplete recovery. So especially if you lost only data files, then you are going to call that as complete recovery because we can recover the database without any data loss. And if you lost any of redo log files, control files, or archive log files, then we need to mandatory go for incomplete recovery, which means there is a data loss. So that is the reason if you just recollect the things because these three files are having multiplexing. Redo log files are having multiplexing concept, which means you need to maintain multiple copies so that even if one file is lost, the other file will be available. So control files is also having multiplexing, even archaeologs are also having multiplexing. Because of the same reason that if you lost these files, you need to go for incomplete recovery and in incomplete recovery, there will be a data loss. So when comes to recovery process, there will be two primary phases. One is restoring. So you have taken the backup into a particular location. So you would be taking the again you will be restoring that original files. Sorry, you will be restoring the backup files to the original location. And then we have another phase called recover, where you will be applying the redo log files and the archive log files to sync the SCN with the latest SCN so that you will be able to recover the database. So let me take you an example in order to make you understand about this complete and incomplete recoveries. So let's say my database backup is scheduled every day at night 10 p.m. So at 10 p.m. I have taken the backup of my database. So full database backup. So either it could be assume that it is a hot backup. Then on an average, assuming that every 15 minutes one archeolog file will be generated in my database. So first I'm talking about complete recovery. So every 15 minutes one new archeolog file will be generated. So my backup completed at 10 p.m. So the archeolog file, next archeolog file will be generated at 10:15. Then next archeolog file at 10:30. Then 10:45. Then 11 o'clock, 11:15, etc. etc. So this continues. And right now the time is next day morning 9:35 a.m. So that the time is next day morning 9:35 a.m. So by sorry, by the time the last archeolog file that was generated is at 9:30 a.m. because every 15 minutes one archeolog will be generated. So as per that, the latest archeolog file that was generated is at 9:30 a.m. So at 9:35 a.m., assume I lost one particular data file. So normally, how these data files will be lost? So there will be two reasons. One is human error. Instead of deleting some file, you might be deleting this file. So a human mistake may happen, or generally it happens with the media crash, like the hard disk which is holding this particular data file is crashed, then automatically it is going to be a problem. So these will be the primary reasons for that particular data file corruption or data file loss. Now you need to recover this data file. So what you are going to do? So as I said, it is a two-step process. So one is restore, in which you have a backup already at 10 p.m. yesterday night. So you will be copying this 1.dbf file from that backup location to the original location. So this we call it as restore. But can I make use of the data file? No. Why? Because that particular data file which you are copying from the backup location to original location will be having data only till 10 p.m. yesterday night. So it will not have the latest data. So to make the data file to come to the latest point of time, you are going to do the second phase, that is recover. Here first you are going to apply archeolog files. So you will be applying the archeolog files right from 10:15 till 9:30. So 10:15 p.m. yesterday night till 9:30 a.m. That is the latest archeolog file what I have. So we will be applying that. So the moment you start applying the archeologs, because archeologs are nothing but the changes happens to the database, so the latest data will be populated into this data file. Now after this, can I open the, or can I make use of the data file? Still no, you cannot do that. Why? Because the data file is lost at 9:35 a.m. but you have data only till 9:30 a.m. So still 5 minutes gap is there. So if the data is not there in archeolog files, where that 5 minutes data will be there? That 5 minutes data will be there in redo log files. Why? Because redo log files is the original source of archeolog files. So that's the reason you will be applying the redo log files, and then you will be getting the data file up to the latest point of time, that is 9:35 a.m. So at this moment, can I make use of data file? Yes, you can. Why? Because you are having the latest data till the time you lost the file. So which means there is no data loss here, and you are able to recover entire data. So because here there is no data loss and we completely recover the data file, we call this as complete recovery. So is this clear to everyone? Any questions? Okay. So let us go and see a situation where we go with incomplete recovery. So as I said, incomplete recovery will hold off some data loss. So how that happens, let us take a look. So taking the same example, 10 p.m. I have a backup, and every 15 minutes one archeolog file will be generated. So the latest archeolog file is at 9:30 a.m. and the right now the time is 9:35 a.m. And this time I have lost two files. One is the data file, and assume at this moment of time logwriter is writing into uh, a particular group 1, and assume also that I am not maintaining multiplexing. So let's say I have only one redo log file in group 1. So I lost both the files, like redo 01.log, as well as, so which is the current file logwriter is currently writing into it. So I lost that redo log file, as well as I lost one data file. So what we are going to do in this situation? So same thing, one is we need to first restore it. So we are going to restore the data file. Then as I said, this is a hot backup which I have taken. So in hot backup, we will not take the backup of redo log files. So which means I cannot restore redo file. Only I can restore the data file. So after that, I need to recover. So for that, first we are going to apply the archive log files. So the moment we apply the archive log files, my data file will come till the latest time, that is 9:30 a.m. And after that, I need to apply redo log files. But to apply the redo log files, first of all, I lost the redo log file itself. Means whatever the data that was or whatever the changes that were there between 9:30 to 9:35 are there in this particular redo log file, and I lost that file only. Then can I make this 9:30 a.m. Can I make this data file which is having 9:30 a.m. data to come till 9:35 a.m.? If you have redo log file, it is possible, but now redo log file is not there, so this is also not possible. So because that file itself is lost, and in this situation, you cannot recover the data file till the latest point of time, and where here you will be having 5 minutes data loss will be there. So suppose if you have multiplexing, so then what is the situation? So taking the same situation, you have lost one data file, and first multiplexed copy. You lost redo 01 a.log, but you have redo 01 b.log. So redo 01 b.log is available in some other location. So if you have multiplexing, then here instead you can apply to this data file, you can apply redo 01 b.log, because redo 01 b will be an exact replica of redo 01 a, and then you will be able to recover the data completely. So there will be no data loss in that situation. So that is the reason Oracle, very much it is stressing that we need to have a multiplexing for the redo log files. So is this situation also clear? Okay, so similarly, if you lost control files or the archeolog files also, you will end up in a similar situation like this, where you cannot recover the database completely, and there will be some data loss. So that's the reason maintaining multiplexing will be the only solution to avoid incomplete recovery. So then manually how you are going to recover the data files, redo log files and all. The steps were given here for your information. But this we are going to see through Rman itself. So all these things were given for you. So now, just to brief here, we have two backup types. One is cold backup and hot backup. So advantages and disadvantages we have discussed already. So sometimes we say like we need to take export of full database daily. The reason is if you lost a single data file, then it is not possible to recover that particular uh, table from the cold backup or hot backup. So that's the reason we use it to say we need to take backup of even this export backup also for entire database. But from 12c, Oracle has given an option that using Arman backup you can recover a single table also. So that's the reason if your database is in 12c version, if you take only Arman backup, that itself is sufficient to recover anything. You can recover a database or you can recover even a single table as well. So that advantage we have here. So if you look at the table, each and every backup methodology is having either one disadvantage. So then Oracle thought, why can't we have a backup methodology which don't have any disadvantages at all? And then it came with this option called Recovery Manager. So it is a utility basically, like export, import and all. This is a utility to take the backup of database. So even though it was introduced in 8 version and fully available from 9i, but still people haven't realized it till 10G version. So, and right now, as I said, nobody is using the traditional cold or hot backups. So everybody is using Arman backup only. So what is there in Arman that it is giving so much advantage for us? So as when we go with the cold or hot backup, basically you are copying the data file from one location to another location. So we call that as file to file copy. So you have one file here. So you are as it is copying that file to some other location. Now, two things to discuss here is suppose this data file size is 20 GB, but the inside the data file only 5 GB is utilized and the rest of the 15 GB is free space. So, but when you do cold or hot backup, that is user managed backup, so you'll be using the OS command CP, and CP doesn't care whether there is a free space or user space. So blindly it will copy each and everything into the backup location. So here also you will get 20 GB in your backup location. And also when this is completed, when CP command completed copying the file, you don't know whether the copy was done perfectly or there is some corruption or not. So many times you might have observed that during copy, if the copy is not done properly, the file will be corrupted. But we don't know whether that happened or not. So we cannot really go and validate the files in the backup location. Now, when comes to Armen, the first and foremost thing is Armen's behavior is it is going to take the backup of blocks, or more clearly to say, it is going to take the backup of used blocks in the data files. So which means if I have a data file of 20 GB and out of that I have 5 GB as the user space and 15 GB as the free space, then this Harman is going to take the backup of only that 5 GB into the backup location, and it is going to skip the rest of the 15 GB. Why? Because anyway it is a free space. So because of this behavior, earlier you are taking 20 GB. So let's say to copy this 20 GB file you have taken 20 minutes. Now because Arman is taking only 5 GB backup, it will just complete in 5 minutes. And space wise also, earlier you require 20 GB space, but you require now only 5 GB space. Means you are saving 15 GB space. So this is the advantage of Arman. The space as well as the backup time are reduced. So you have not done anything. The behavior of Arman itself is giving these two advantages for us. So first, the backup space is saved, and the second one, backup time is saved. So this is what we are going to do with the, or this is how the Arman is going to behave. Now there will be a question. Okay, it is taking the backup of only 5 GB. How about if we need to do the recovery? Because when you are recovering, you need to create complete 20 GB file. You cannot create only 5 GB file. So that Arman will take care, because Arman will record this information of the total size in its metadata. So when you do the recovery, again what it will do, it will create a 20 GB file, and then it will be restoring that 5 GB data, and it will leave the 15 GB data as the free space. So that intelligence Arman will maintain. So this is what Arman is going to do, and because of this reason, we say that Arman is going to behave best. So apart from that, Arman is having so many other advantages, like parallelism. So you can implement parallelism just like in data pump we have seen. So multiple Arman process can execute on multiple data files to take backup, so that it will speed up. Then if you have taken backup of a database, again you can create a multiplex copy of that, just like how you create multiplex redo log file. So we can have multiplexing of this backup again, so which means two backup copies will be available. And then detection of corruption in data files. So while taking the backup itself, it will scan entire data file. So, and it will, if any corruption is there in the data file, so that corruption will be highlighted for us. So we'll be discussing about corruption in recovery. So that time I will explain more. Then validating the backup. So after you take the backup, if you want to know whether your backup is proper or not, or any corruption is there and all, so you can validate the backup with the help of a simple command. And we have some concepts of recovery catalog and incremental backup, which we'll be discussing in detail. So when it comes to the components of Arman, like basically we'll be using an Arman prompt in order to take the backup. So for that we have Arman executable file, and any database which you are taking backup through Arman, you call that as a target database. For example, here I am taking the backup of this ProdDB database, then we call this ProdDB database as the target database. Then we have auxiliary database and recovery catalog, which I will be discussing later. So then comes to the media management layer. So usually earlier, uh, earlier in the sense some 10 years back or so, or 5 years back or so, people used to use tape drives as their backup storage. So instead of taking the backup into the hard disk, they use it to take the backup into tape drives. So tape drives are just like our audio cassettes, where you will be having some storage capacity, and there will be a device just like how we have tape recorder in order to record a song or whatever. So similarly, we will be having tape driver, so or tape device. So you will be basically using that device in order to take that or in order to take the backup. And the why people went for the tape drives? One is reliability. So yeah, I mean, if you just compare, uh, if you multiple times if you use the CD or DVD, even now we are not using even that also, but just taking an example. So multiple times if you are using CD or DVD, there will be a problem, like gradually it will be degraded, and it will create a problem. But if you put like if you have an audio cassette which is almost 20 years back or 30 years back, still you can play the audio cassette. So n number of times you do that, still it will work. So the reason is because of its reliability. So, and number two is cost. So as I said, in earlier years, these tape drives used to be very cheaper when compared to the hard disk. And gradually, because hard disks are becoming cheaper day by day, now almost the tape drives and hard disks are the same cost. So it is up to the client to decide which one they need to go for. But still today, people majority of the clients are going for the tape drives only because of that, as I said, reliability, etc., etc. So many reasons. And even enhancements has been done to that as well. So before I jump on to that, let me show you how a tape drive will look like and all. So just to take an example, this is how a tape will look like, this violet color one. And I mean, inside it will be just like an audio cassette. If you open it, you will be able to see the magnetic tape. And the back, you can able to see this is the device. So here you have an eject slot, so where you will be inserting the tape, and you will be integrating with the software, backup software, and the database backup will be writing over there into that. And as I said, this is has also been revolutionized. And nowadays, earlier we used to have only one tape slot. So if you look at all these pictures here, you can able to see only one tape slot. But nowadays, this has been also improvised, and we have multiple tape slots. And even we have something called robotic tape drives. So you can just go to Google and you can type, not Google, you can just go to YouTube, and you can type robotic tape drive, and you will get a video. You can just watch that video. So it will, robotic tape drives is something like there will be a robot, a small robot, which will keep on loading and unloading the tapes, because somebody should be there to insert the tape and to remove the tape. So instead of you manually doing it or somebody manually doing it, so the small robot will take care of that one. So those things are improvised from that particular point of view. So if you are taking the normal user managed hot or cool backup, then directly writing into the tape drive is not possible. So first you need to take backup to hard disk, and from hard disk you need to take again back to the tape drive. But with Armen, it is possible directly to take the backup to the tape. Sorry. So for that, this media management layer is going to be helpful. And not only that, uh, when we have these tapes in place, to manage these tapes and all, we'll be having a separate team, which we call it as backup team or net backup team. So they will be using a specific software in order to take the backup, which we call it as net backup software. And there are so many net backup softwares available in the market, like Tivoli, etc., etc. But a very widely used one is Veritas 6.5, or latestly it is Veritas 7.0. So what basically, or how basically this happens is like this. So assuming this is the tape server wherein the tapes will be loaded and the backups will happen. So as I said, to manage this tape server, the net backup team will be using a software. So that software will be installed in a particular server. So that we call it as net backup software. As I said, Veritas is one such thing. Now, this will be entirely managed by the net backup team. So these all things. And let's say we have database servers here. So let's say we have multiple database servers. So what this net backup team will do is, just like how we have database server software and database client software, similarly here also we will have Veritas server software and Veritas client software. So this net backup team will install Veritas client software in each and every database server. So they will be installing this client software in each and every database server. And after installing, they will provide you some parameters. And especially we call that as net backup policy. So they will create some parameters and they will give you some name for you. So let's say I'm just taking an example. Aura underscore BKP is the policy name. So they will give you that we need to use this policy name in our Armen script. So when we are executing Armen commands manually, or we use a shell script or whatever, we need to mention this policy name so that just like very simple, like when you are using Oracle client and connecting, what you are doing, you are giving TNS entry, right? So with this TNS entry, you are connecting to the database. Similarly, if you use this backup policy, it will first, this Veritas client software, it will detect this backup policy name and it will connect to the net backup server, and from there the backup will be initiated to the tape drive. So how we are using TNS entry, here we need to use net backup policy name. That's the, that's how we can compare. So that is how, like because we can use this policy name directly with Armen and can take backup directly to tape drive. So double steps is not required, like first taking to hard disk, then from hard disk again copying to the tape drive. So that is not required with Armen. And similarly to normal hot backup, so even in Armen hot backup also, we need to have archive log mode enabled for the database. So those are the things that we have for today. So tomorrow we will start looking at how to take backup with Armen, and we have something called arm and configuration parameters. So we'll be discussing about them, and we will see the recovery scenarios, all those things. So anyone having questions before we end up? Okay, so let's meet tomorrow at the same time, and we'll continue the class. So thanks everyone for joining. Have a nice day.